sort of similar to your background, or you must have seen those sort of people. Whereas if you come to a foreign MBA, you're gonna work with a producer, lawyer, I don't know what sort of different background, sales, marketing, and that's the key difference you come in. If you want to be a part of a MNC, which is like highly diverse, which is global, then foreign MBAs make sense. But if you want to target Indian companies, then probably it will not make sense for you. You can anyway, with your IIT Kanpur degree, anyway can find anything in India. It's not a big issue. Second is like the structure of the things, where like it's sort of similar to Indian B schools, but it's like now you're not an individual worker, or like your academics is not about individual strength. It's about how you can work with the teams. Everything like 60 to 70% of. Oh, can you mute, Pratap? So 60 to 70% of your academics is basically based on how you work in teams, how you work together, how you develop your leadership style. And that's what all these MBA schools talk about. And they focus on that much more. I can take the program structure and specialization for HEC Paris, and then Chinmay, you can add up. So program structure is very similar to IIT. Like I can give you an analogy to IIT Kanpur. You have a core phase where you do all the intake of the MBA takes core courses, which are similar to like the base, like finance, marketing, or like basic of every different vertical of a business. You are exposed to that. And then later on in the second phase of your MBA program, you get to choose specialization. Now, specialization could be you want to go deep into finance, you want to go deep into marketing, you want to go deep into accounting, management, strategy, entrepreneurship, digital innovation, and these are some of the specializations in HEC Paris. Sorry. Chinmay, do you want to add?
It's exactly the same. Like there is absolutely no difference. Just one point to add probably on the specialization piece. I mean, LBS do offer specializations, but to be quite honest, it's less of a degree thing and it's more of what you want to do. Because honestly, like I'm not even sure if I'm specialized in anything after my MBA. I just went for the courses that I thought I want to go for, like in terms of my learning and in terms of what I want to do after my MBA. So like LBS will offer you options, but like the courses are available to you. So the core is you have something you have to do. Electives is something that you choose, and the courses that you choose is where you can go for whatever you want.
Yeah. And one more thing I would like to add is like there are difference in the tenure of the MBAs also. Like LBS is the main one is 2-year program. They have now a new one which is 1 year. HEC Paris is a 16-month program which comprises 4 semesters of 2 months basically with internship, everything included, 16 months. If I'm talking about INSEAD MBA, that's like 10 months. Like they also have 2 intakes, and most of these MBAs have 2 intakes, generally September and January intakes. So 2 batches comprising of that. HEC Paris is also different that most of the INSEAD and the LBS have a huge batch size, like 400, 500 people in single batch, comprising in total of 800 people in a single year, whereas HEC Paris is just like 160 people in a batch. So like 300 people in total.
Yeah, actually, I was about to ask that program duration question. I noticed that in that your LinkedIn profile. So my next question is, I want to ask this question to Anmol. Can you elaborate about what is Masters in Management and what is its program structure and how is it different from MBA?
Right. I think it's a lot similar to what Chinmay and Rudra just mentioned about their experiences and overall the kind of environment that you are in at a B school. I think the main difference lies in the kind of people that the program targets. Like the MIM programs are specifically focused on early career individuals, So let's say if I talk about INSEAD, their eligibility criteria is that if you have more than 2 years of work experience, you can't apply for the MIM program. So it's just to say that the kind of people that they're targeting, it's really different. Apart from that, I think the takeaways are really similar in a lot of ways. That it opens a huge global network for you. It opens geographical locations where you want to work in after the masters. I think the point of diversity is really nice because I think we all talk about diversity a lot. That it's nice, but when once you feel it and you be in that in that environment, it really kicks you that how important diversity can be in business, but also like in your personal growth and network as well. So the diversity element is really good. In terms of the way the program is structured, it's just like Rudra talked about the INSEAD MBA. So the MIM is also a 10-month program. It starts in August and ends in June. It's divided in, so also like it depends on where you are doing your masters in management from. Most of the European masters in management, like in HEC, ESSEC, ESCP, they're 2-year programs. The ones in UK, INSEAD, and I guess the ones in US as well, they're 1-year programs, like mostly like around 1-year programs, like 10 months or 12 months. So the duration varies like that. And there is, I think across all the MIMS, there is this element of workshops as well, where you travel to different places. Like if you are doing your MIM in ESCP, you travel to 4 different campuses. I think that is true for LBS as well. In INSEAD, the half of the program is based in Fontainebleau in France. The other half is based in Singapore. So you have to move to Singapore for the other half of the program. And just like they also talked about like the core courses. So you have your core courses from accounting, marketing, strategy, and data analysis and stuff like that. And then you choose electives on top of it, the ones that interest you, which can be fintech, tech and innovation, let's say, or if you want to deep down into accounting and stuff like that. So yeah, it's mostly based like that.
So what I'm getting is that masters in management requires a lot of relocation compared to MBA during the program, like you undergo training at different locations.
It depends. I guess it depends on the campus. Sorry, it depends on the university that you're targeting. Like all of them have a different, all of them have structured the program in a different way. I'm not sure. I think the LBS is just in London, and you have the option of traveling if you
Yeah.
want. Yeah. So in
Yeah,
INSEAD,
it's like 1 year in London. I mean, I don't know much. I know that I don't think they move around in terms of training, because if the but like I don't think I'm the right I am not 100% aware of how the course is structured, but yeah, it's sort of.
right. So for INSEAD, you have to move to a different campus. For I think for HEC also you have to be there, but I think you have an option for a study abroad exchanges. You have the option of exchanges. So I think it depends highly on the university that you're targeting. So I would suggest that people who are targeting master's in management to look up the universities, the kind of structure that suits them, and then they can move forward with that.
Yeah, so since you have talked about exchanges, I want to ask this question to Rudra that he has traveled to a American school for an exchange program. So what was your experience like and how was it?
So a couple of things there, like I did my exchange in Columbia Business School. So I moved 1 semester there and did that. There are other programs also. You can do dual degrees with partnership with Yale or Wharton or something. I didn't go for that, but I just did an exchange. So now like uh US MBAs what similar to Indian MBAs. They are early in their careers. And if you want to compare the demographics of a Columbia Business School, they are much younger compared to European business schools, like 25, 26, whereas European business schools are mostly 28, 29 years old. Uh, so it feels more of a master's or the early career people. Secondly, they are much, all these MBAs basically make you do case studies. And so a European business school like LBS, INSEAD, or anyone else focuses a lot on Europe and the global case studies, whereas US business schools are mostly focused on US market. So if you want to know about more about US markets, then it's better to go into a US business school. And they're much more competitive. The GMAT score of Columbia Business School is compared like higher than anyone of INSEAD and anyone's They're super smart. The way of teaching is super smart. Like the professors are insanely good, well-known people in the industry. Some of my professors are like regular people on CNBC. They keep on giving interviews and an analyst and whatever. It's a completely different ball game if you go for the US business school compared to European business school. Definitely, HEC Paris is also like insane. Like faculty is well known in France and Europe, but if you want to be in a US industry, then it makes sense for US business schools. And yeah, it's much more costly. That's a definite. And I was in New York, so it's a great city. The other thing is, if you're choosing a business school, choose the city also. So you want to live the city life, and New York is a great place to like experience. I would say Paris is also great. London is also great. I think INSEAD is the only one which is like in the outskirts. So that's, I don't know, Anmol can talk about that more. So it's a great experience to have like go into a different school, study with them, have fun, and get to know about the different backgrounds they're coming from and know about the US market. So that's why I chose for the exchange. Does that answer, Anmol? Sorry, Pratibha.
Yeah, pretty much. And you talked about the point of the location. So does that really matter much? Because according to my perception, like MBA is a degree which MBA or Masters in Management requires a lot of interaction with the people from business background. So uh, according to my perception, does the city really matter much? Like big cities offer a lot of opportunities. Then
It's Yeah, so I can answer, then someone can pitch in. So it's more of a visa game also, compared to just being like a city game. Like if you come for France, you get the privilege of getting the what you call talent passport, some visa, which is very easy, so you can stay in France. If you want to target US, please choose like US business school, because that's the easiest way to get your H1B visa, because everyone, like companies need to sponsor you to get those visas. And if you are exceptional, probably they will give you. IT Kanpur people are exceptional, I agree with that. But if you want to make your life easier, it would be better to choose a region where you want to be. But if you see the stats, uh, for the LBS or NCR, anyone, you will see 67 or 7, more than 70% of the people are across the world. People are willing to sponsor for them. It just becomes harder in the US. The rest of the places is completely fine. If you want target US, then it might be a better option to be in US.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with that, and also particularly with US, this is also thing that if it's not a STEM program, then the OPT that you get, like the work visa that you get, is just for 1 year. So which makes things really difficult. Like and also getting an H1B also is based on probability and highly, like it's uncertain that you'll definitely get an H1B. So a lot of programs in US are also nowadays like MBA with a STEM track, STEM specialization, or Masters of Science of Management and stuff like that, so that you get an OPT for 3 years, like a work visa for 3 years. So if people are looking into US universities, like also look at this aspect, because it can it can bother you later on, like after you graduate, where you want to move, and if you have enough work visa for that place or not.
But I can add to that from my experience of Columbia Business School, if you have an engineering background, you will get STEM. That's not an issue, like for any MBA, if you choose the top 10, even to Ross Business School.
yeah. So my next question is, can you throw some light on the other programs available in your parent university? What all are the durations and what are the programs structures and all?
I can start with INSEAD. At INSEAD, they have, I think the major programs are the MBA program, which has 2 intakes. And we also have a master's in finance and also the executive MBA. But the executive MBA is something like which you do later on in your career. People who are in the executive positions, they come to do that program. Or if you own your own business, later on you want to connect with other people. So that's for like the later part of your career. I think yeah, it's just MBA and Masters in Finance. I think the other major programs are in INSEAD.
I can add for HEC Paris. So the thing is, HEC Paris is basically the top business school of France. So it's basically like the IIT here. So you have the undergrad plus the MIM program, which is the flagship program of HEC Paris, and that's why it's the number one here. So you have 2 years of option of MIM, or you can directly enter a specialized masters. So which is basically masters in finance, masters in marketing, masters in entrepreneurship is there, I think strategy is there. So you can directly enter this MIM program like in the last year, or you can enter as a masters in management and you do the whole 2 years. The other way is only for the French people. So they enter as the undergrads. Then you have executive MBAs, which I don't think makes sense to talk about here. And the other is the MBA. That's it. It's a proper business school. HEC has. Yeah. Chinmay?
Similar, more or less similar for LBS. So there are no undergrad programs in LBS. It's but masters in management. There's masters in finance also, which a lot of people pursue here. Masters management for early career students, as Anmol mentioned. I've seen a few experienced people in masters in finance, so that's probably I think they take experienced students as well, but like not 100% sure on that. Then the executive MBA programs, I'm 100% sure there is one in asset management also. I think masters in asset management, but like I have no idea what it entails. So yeah, there can be a couple more courses like that, but it's so like these are the main ones that I've seen. You will see people going for finance stuff a bit more in London, because like London has a lot of financial centers. So like jobs in investment banking, PVC, like asset management, stuff like that. So that's why like masters in finance and masters in management, a lot of students go there to get to that also. So like that's more or less it.
Okay. So can you throw some light on the executive MBA programs? Like just out of curiosity, I'm asking, what do they mean and what they're?
So I can talk for LBS. Executive MBAs are more tenured and more senior. They like I have seen people with 10 years of work experience as well, and I've seen people who are like in their 40s also. So it depends, and at least in LBS there are two different courses for executive MBA. There's one like normal executive MBA. There's one called Sloan. Not 100% sure what's the difference between the two, but like you will see a lot more experience, a lot more accomplishments. A lot of those people are either they have done their own business or they're pursuing their business, or a lot of them join a startup or like start something like that here. So I've met those people. But apart from that, I think I'm not 100% sure about the program structure and anything like that. The experience part, I think for me stands out as the most important difference.
I can add to that for Columbia Business School and HEC Paris. So basically, these executive MBAs are like the who want to be the CXOs of their companies, and most of these people are like sponsored from their companies, and they do courses with their job. So it's like Saturday, Sunday, or Friday. They come and do their classes, and though most of these they also have the core courses and the specialization and thing, but their focus is more on like knowing more like extra things which they have not been knowing for now, and they just want to like advance in their career to the next level, like the heads of a company or the chief executive of like different CXOs and those things. So they are much more focused on those things compared to just experiencing the whole diversity and the working with people.
And also adding to that, like I had a few conversations with the executive MBAs, and this interesting thing I found was that like definitely they are very far away in their career, so they are like in the executive position. Other interesting thing was that at a point in their career at which they like meeting others in different industries having that kind of experience is also something that they're really looking for, especially people who are running their own business and doing the executive program to meet industry leaders of other industries and other companies. Because at that point of time, the learning happens via increasing your network and meeting new people and learning via them. So I think that's also an interesting way the program is structured. It's very more engaging and conversational. So like peer-to-peer learning is extremely high in those programs.
So executive MBA overall adds to the experience to the campus. Like you get a lot more opportunities to network, you get more experience and all. That's cool.
Yeah, like we all are talking about that you can choose some electives in the later phase of year, and some of the courses are done by the MBA executive MBAs. So I've taken courses with the executive MBAs. So that's how you build your network in those people, and maybe in the future you will get some benefit out of it.
Uh, I want to know more about what are the advantages that abroad MBA has over the domestic MBA. Can you give more insights on that?
Rudra, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, we have basically answered this, but I can say that the prime difference is that the diversity and the whole angle of like working with people of different backgrounds, of different regions, and like I don't think so you will find someone from Peru coming to Indian B school or something of that sort, lawyer from Russia. So I have friends like these now. So this sort of experience you will never get in a Indian B school. You will get highly intellectual people in Indian B school for sure, and they would be like very good. But this working with these sort of people, which you probably would need in a multicultural MNC, that you're not gonna have. And it's much more focused on like and then it comes to the case studies also, like what sort of case studies Indian B school do versus the European or the US B school do. You will find that some of the case studies here are much like focused on Indian markets also compared to like just being on international. They are international for sure, but there are some cases of those also. And lastly, like the whole vibe of it, like just come to, I think any one of these three B school, you will come and see the kind of parties and the networking sessions we have. It's on the next level. Like I don't think anyone can match it. So those are some of the benefits, and Indian B school are much more focused in the earlier, like people do their undergrads and 1 or 2 years they come and then they do their MBA. That's not the case in anywhere like US or European. So people are there who have some professional background and then coming forth. So that's a different sort of experience you get. Yeah, if anyone wants to add, please add.
Yeah, so I'll just start from the last point that Rudra mentioned. So for me, like that's the biggest difference. That a lot of students in Indian B schools have like 2 years of up to 2 years of work experience. Obviously, people can do after that also, but like the majority of students are like that. And I mean, in LBS, I didn't know a single person who had less than 3 years of work experience. Like the three was the least. So in terms of professional experience, there is a lot more experience. These two are completely two different products. Indian MBA is a completely different product. Foreign MBA is a completely different product. You need this also for very different reasons. So it really depends on what exactly you're looking for. I don't think one is better than the other. It's just different offerings. And like, for me, it was more important. I didn't want to do MBA right after my undergrad, I think postgrad. So for me, that was like one of the major considerations. So I chose to like first work and then do it. But yeah, like to each their own. So it really depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, all the other points I think Rudra has already mentioned.
Yeah, I can talk about the disadvantage. The biggest is the cost. In MBA school, probably.
Yeah, I mean, get ready to like
Shed. But I think it's
dead
not a
dead
big
written.
issue anymore. Like you get easily student loans, and I think you can repay back in like 3 years or whatever, like depending on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 years. I don't know, Rudra, if you notice this, but like when I started, and I guess when you started, like from that time, and I've been in touch with few juniors, like 2 years
Cost
after
is
that,
going.
it has
Yeah.
gone up quite a lot.
Yeah.
So so keep track of the interest rates, like whenever you are planning to apply. So like things may change.
Yeah, that's a con for sure. So, and then the other thing is if you do for like if you do for the someone asked here, I think like exchange program with a foreign business school, probably you can go for it. And I don't know what are the chances of the selection rate. I was the only one who went to Colombia. There was just one slot available for some of the in London Business School, etc. There are like 8, 9, but not many people are being moved from one place to another in exchanges. So if you get it, it's a good experience. It will add value to your port profile, but it's not going to be the same experience. Like I know 160 people in my batch by name, and I've connected with them over like multiple parties and multiple sessions. So I know them so in and out. Doing that in one semester, it's like a bit difficult, and then you want to enjoy the city also. So it's gonna be a great experience, but choosing this would be a much better experience. That's how I will put it up.
And like if you're looking, if you're interested in exchange programs, I'm pretty sure all MBA schools, they do list they have the list of schools that they are in collaboration with for exchange. So if you're looking for a specific uh, school in terms of exchange from an Indian B school, I mean, you can check that out on a website, and then you can you'll probably find someone from our school over there, and you can ask them how easy or difficult it is to get there.
Uh,
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
I would like one more thing. I don't know if I should mention this or not, but some of these B schools are like highly specialized in some industries. Like HEC Paris is unique that they have a very like good tie-ups with industries in fashion or like the luxury segment. So Gucci, Armani, and these sort of companies come here. I don't see this happening in India for sure. Like there's not much industry of that sort, but at the same time, the tie-ups are not there. So you might see these sort of things also in like the global business school happening. Yep.
Yeah. So now coming to the admission process, can you give brief description of what admission process did you follow during your admission time? And in general, what is the admission process to these programs?
Are you asking for MBA or like master's
Yeah.
management?
Yeah, I want to ask for both. You can start from MBA.
Chinmay, go ahead. I think it's gonna be
Okay.
the same.
Yeah, MBA, I'm pretty sure it's the same process. So usually like you have to, and I guess this applies to US as well. So you have to give GMAT exam. I think now they have started to accept GRE as well. So you can choose to give either, but GMAT is like the more traditional way of applying application. And usually it's recommended that like take some time before you give your GMAT. Like don't give it after 2 years if you are going for a global MBA. Once you give GMAT, then you have to like do the actual application process, which will have, I mean, every school has different questions, but like for example, LBS had like 2-3 questions where you have to write essays. Uh, like up to 500 words on different questions. INSEAD MBA also has a similar structure, 7-8 questions, and I'm sure HEC Paris also has something similar. So as part of the application, you also have to give letter of recommendations. So in different schools, the number of letter of recommendations is different. Like I gave 2 for LBS. I'm not sure about other schools, but so like that is one more thing where you like with people whom you are working with, you need to ask them to basically recommend you. And like it's usually recommended that you shouldn't go way into your past. So if you are applying, let's say after 4 years of your graduation, probably like doesn't make sense to get recommendation from someone whom you had experience with like 4 or 5 years ago. So like should be more recent, at least one should be more recent. Then once you submit the application, if you get shortlisted, then usually there's an interview round. Now like interviews, the number of interviews can differ. I think INSEAD has 2, LBS I had one, where the interviews are usually, at least the interview experience really varies, because in LBS, I can speak for LBS, like alumni usually take interviews. So some, like I've heard different experiences. I've heard like from friends in India, like friends who gave interviews in India, they had like some of them had a bit more intense experience, some were like quite relaxed. So it really depends on what the alumni is looking for. They usually have a sheet, and they usually have instructions from the school that things that they need to check. And yeah, like once after that, it's like if you get shortlisted, then it's done. So that's like the core. I'm just telling you like in very normal terms, like what the process is. Obviously, like the best practices and like stuff which can potentially help you out, that is more, but we can cover that later. But yeah, like some schools also encourage you to reach out to the students who are in school, or like an alumni who can recommend you. So like I did a few recommendations from my friend. I also got a recommendation for me from a school student. Those are obviously not nowhere as important as your actual letter of recommendations, but it helps in terms of, it helps to show interest in the school, that you have actually sort of either like try to talk to the students in school to see like what the school offers. So it just shows your interest basically. But yeah, like that is one more thing, but that is optional. I don't think it's not mandatory.
Yeah.
Rudra, anything?
Yeah, I can talk about the differences now for HEC Paris. So one is like LBS and these have like fixed deadlines. You have like some periods when you have to submit your this form. This form is basically your story, like sort of like where you want to go and what you have done. The like a letter of recommendation, what you have talked about is the right thing. That you choose something which is a like recent thing. But HEC Paris has like every month you have the deadlines. You can apply in any month, and then you get like it's a rolling basis. There's no fixed deadlines as such. Second is during the interviews are mostly taken by alumni who are present in that country or in that city for sure. So because I was present in Stockholm, so I met 2 alumni who were in the Stockholm. But if you are doing from India, it might be a completely different experience. And I know like what Chinmay is saying is correct. Like it could be very different. It depends on the alumni which are present in that city or the country itself. At the same time, HEC Paris interviews are a bit different, that you need to present a presentation on any topic of your choice, and then you have to present that, and then the questions are on that presentation also, plus your admission form, plus everything. So it's a bunch of mixed of things for HEC Paris. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just on the timelines thing, there are 4 rounds, I think, for LBS. So it's one in August, then there is another one in Jan, then there are 2 more. So, but yeah, rest of the things I think.
So for Masters in Management, it's very similar to LBS's application process. So the timeline, so for most of the schools, the timelines, so there are multiple rounds, right? So the first round starts, I think, somewhere around September or October. That is like the earliest round. And there are, I think INSEAD has 5 rounds, which ends till May. It's like one in October, then the other one is in December, then one in February, then April or May, something like that. So it depends on how prepared are you, how your cover letter is, how your do you have your recommendations, how your score is. So you apply according to the rounds. The earlier you apply, especially in INSEAD, I think, which might be true for other schools as well, the better your chances are. Because in terms of NCR, one thing that I noticed, and I was also talking to the administration, what they try to make is a very diverse cohort. So you have to increase the chances of you being diverse, right? You being unique in certain ways. So the number of rounds you miss, or the later you apply, it's especially for people like us. Like, we are engineers from India. There's a huge population of Indian engineers applying to these schools. So the probability that someone who has an exactly same profile as you can get in the round one. So if a school, if the school's basic principle is that they want a highly diverse cohort, then that probably can be difficult. So the earlier you apply, it's always good. You can get access to more scholarships if you apply early on, like at least for NCR. The process is that you need a GMAT or GRE score. Most of us give GMAT. Um, then you need letter of recommendations. I think one thing different in case of MIMS is that when we talk about letter of recommendation, for us, you need one academic letter of recommendation from a professor of yours. The other one is a professional a letter of recommendation. I think LSE requires three, or that varies, but it's definitely a combination of academic as well as professional letter of recommendation. You need a CV, which is updated. A few schools require you to answer a few questions. So for NCR, you have to answer a few questions. For LBS, you have to answer a few questions. While a few schools require you to submit a cover letter, which is a one-page sheet of your story, basically, like why you want to do this particular program, your experience that led you to this particular program. And meanwhile, you can start reaching out to people who are doing that program or who've done that program. And you can mention their names as well. That sort of helps you in building a story that you're really interested in the school. Then once you submit all of these things, if you get selected, you will be called for an interview. And the interview experiences for me was very similar to what Chinmay was talking about. So they connect you to alumni. And for us, it was very random. So like I was connected to an alumni who was an INSEAD MBA and was currently based in Japan. So it varies a lot depending on the mood that the alumni has, as well as the kind of questions he is interested in or he wants to know about you, as well as the sheet that the admission office has, the questions that the admission office has asked him to talk about. So yeah, it's mostly like that. It's one interview for NCR, and after that, I guess in 15 to 20 days, you get a call if you are selected.
Yeah, that's a great call out from Anmol, because the cohort diversity is a huge thing. I have friends who were extremely talented students, like great profiles, uh, but couldn't get through only because it was the later rounds. And like, see, if for just sticking to the engineering side of things, like if let's say because all of these schools have a specific quota for each kind of students that they want. So engineering who are working in tech, let's say, or like tech is I think too big, engineering who are working in consulting, let's say, so that they will not select more than a few students from that particular category. If they already got that, then it becomes a more difficult job for the rest. So it's so that's a huge thing.
Yeah, and also if you apply early and you show that your profile is actually diverse, you can get the diversity scholarships as well. So like INSEAD has a few diversity scholarships, but for us, I would say that it will only happen if we apply like in the initial rounds. Like there's this girl who applied in round 5, but she was an opera singer before this, so it's pretty diverse. So she got that scholarship. Yeah, just adding on to that point. Yeah.
Yeah, so you need to have a diverse profile. The more diverse you are, the more are the chances of getting into a B school.
Yeah, you can do that without having a diverse profile as well. It's
Yeah.
like multiple variables that they look for. If let's say your quant side is really cool, if you've done some amazing extracurriculars, that so I think that's also one difference which happens in MIMS and the MBA programs. If you're applying for a MIM program, there's less you can show regarding work that you've done. So it mostly boils down to what you've done in your undergrad, and your GMAT score and your recommendation. Let's say if your recommendations are really nice, then you have an edge. It's basically where you can find the edge amongst all the variables that there are.
So
Yeah,
basically,
and
yeah.
yeah, and like for MBA, it's not the diversity of your career which is like a big thing. So for like if you look, like my profile was one of the most stereotypical profile that one can possibly have, but it is not exactly like, obviously, like if I've done something unique, then that plays to my advantage, but it doesn't mean that if like I've followed a traditional path, like that puts me in a disadvantage. So just like it's more on the fact that the later you apply, the number of options that are available to you, that goes down. So that's the key thing.
Yeah. So the basic question is what makes you unique, and you need to answer that. That's it.
So I want to also inquire about the aspect of the work experience. Like you have earlier said that mostly in Europe programs, you find guys with having a lot of work experience. So I want to know your what work experience uh, has paid off to you. Like what how work experience has paid off to you. And I also wanted to know Anmol's perspective. Like he's a fresher who directly joined MBA program, MIM program just after the completion of degree. So I want to inquire about it.
Anmol, why don't you go at first?
Okay, so can you be more specific as in what domain do you want me to talk about?
Like you have mentioned that MIM program is more academically inclined. So does it mean that it requires less work experience than MBA program?
I don't think it's like when I said, I don't exactly mean that it's more academically inclined. It's more about the way the classroom teaching happens. That was my point essentially. Since people don't have work experience before, so it's less of a conversational experience. Like when students are pitching in like their own experiences and like if let's say like what I've heard from the MBAs at NCR who had like 5 or 7 years of experience, when the professor is talking about, let's say, a case study they're talking about in that particular case study is, let's say, an airline industry. So there was a guy in the classroom who had a 5-year experience working for an airline company. So he had a lot to add to the classroom teaching. So the teaching aspect is basically like that. But I don't think it's very academically inclined. Like we have our courses, but parallelly there are a lot of teamwork involved, a lot of workshops. There are a lot of competitions. You do internships as well. Like if I talk about the European MIMS, who are which are 2-year programs, you also have the option of taking a gap year within within the program, and then you can have some work experience before you graduate. So that also exists. And I think I think the main value addition that I would say a MIM program can have for people who want to do it earlier on is that having access to that network early on in their career, unlocking geographical options if you really want to work in some particular geography, it unlocks that for you. And also, I guess, also the industry options that probably won't exist if you directly go from engineering into the market. Let's say, because like after MIM you can practically go to any business domain. If you want to go into purely into finance, you can do that. You can go into business development. You can go to like Rudra was talking about, there are a lot of luxury companies as well hiring for strategy and business development roles. You can do that. So it opens up a lot of options for you as well if you are doing it at that point of time in your career. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure.
So I can continue the question. Basically, you had the question on what experience we had which made us unique, right? This is the sort of question you wanted to ask. Is that so?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You wanted to know about our work experience in terms of how we or what exactly did
Yeah,
you mean?
I want to basically talk about work experience in general. Does it carry a significant weightage in your application for MBA
MBA probably it's gonna take your most of the weightage, what you have done in the past and where you want to go. So the thing which worked in my favor is like in 2018, I left India and I was working already in a startup in Stockholm. So I played heavily on that experience that I have already working with a diverse set of teams and I want to go to the next level to have a global profile. So I played heavily on that experience. And it's not about the kind of work you have been doing. It's basically most about the growth. Can you show the growth that you have been growing consistently over years into your profile or whatever you are doing? And are you a stellar, like, are you the future leader in this industry or something else you want to become? So this sort of like question MBA schools ask you. Chinmay, you can add.
Yeah, actually, I played the same trick that Rudra did. I was working in US when I decided to do my MBA. And MBA programs, global MBA programs, usually so like I was working consulting, so they will prefer a lot more global experience if one can show that. So that played in my favor, because I had the experience of working in India as well as US and a couple of projects in Europe. So like that, I used that a lot. To be quite frank, like I ended up working with people who helped me out quite a lot. So recommendation is quite important, right? So for me, I just ended up developing a great relationship with my seniors, and the two recommendations that I got was possibly the best that I could have gotten. So, and one of those recommendation was from a senior person in my team who was an LBS alum 10 years ago, like 10 years before me. So that worked out quite a lot. So that helped. For me, there was another key factor that like my partner was already studying in LBS at that time. So she was in her first year of MBA. And when I applied, so like global MBAs, they give a lot of respect to partners and stuff like that. So for me, that's why I said earlier that interview also matters. The interview is very different for different people. Like for me, I had like a very short interview, and where the interviewer did not even ask me that much about myself. It was mostly about her MBA experience. So it really depends. But yeah, like in terms of experience, what usually helps more is like how you can connect what you are doing to what you want to do post MBA. That matters a lot. Then some form of international exposure will also help you out, but like it's not like mandatory, because like for example, if you're working in a tech startup sort of scene in India, like you may focus more on the Indian market, but like that doesn't really put you at a disadvantage. Just like you need to have like a solid story behind, and you need to have a solid motivation. And if you can connect that to how that school will help you reach your goals, like then it becomes a proper story, and then it's easier for you to get through.
So, adding to that, can you share some preparation strategies and tips that we can inculcate in our life right now? If somebody is aiming to do MBA from abroad, how he can pursue in his career path from the perspective of a guy who is in third year or second year or fourth year.
Anmol, probably you go first, because like that program is closer, so more relevant.
Yeah, I think like I think if you're thinking about MEM as well as MBA, I think you have to be also you have to think about what you really want right now, because if you're doing a master's in management from a good school, usually you don't do an MBA later on, because I've seen that like INSEAD MEM is relatively really new. But if you look at the people who've done MEM from, let's say, LBS or HEC, it's very rare to see them do an MBA later on as well. So I think that's one call that you have to take if you're really interested in going to a B school right now. Like, do you want? So the key takeaways I think are very similar. There are differences as well, but there are very similar takeaways out of the programs as well. So if you want those right now, or do you actually want to work for some time and then have more clear thought on what you want to do and how you want to use that education or that network, and then you can probably proceed for an MBA later on? Or if you want like if right now you want a business education, if you want to go to a different geography, or there's certain industry that excites you and that you want to explore more, or you want to network with people right now and get to know about the other industries as well, so you can take a call if you want to do it right now or not. In terms of preparation for MIM, it's basically if you are in your fourth year, you should, it depends if you want to work for 1 year and then apply, or you can start your application process in your final year as well. So in terms of preparation, it's basically finding the right people for your letter of recommendation, the GMAT preparation that you want to do. So you can look up the GMAT website for some preparation, but then you can also look for a few books that exist. There's a standardized preparation process. You can just look it up on Google and follow that and make your own strategy and timeline when you want to give it. Yeah, I think mostly that from my end.
I can go ahead for HEC Paris. The one thing which you can right now do is learn a European language, maybe French. That would be much better. If you want to really go to HEC Paris, that will like make you like in the top 10% already. Uh, but along with this, you can start researching on the B schools. Like I said, like some of the B schools are like focused on one area, one industry. You can try to figure out, narrow down which are the top 2 or 3 B schools you might be willing to like focus on. At the same time, look into what exactly GMAT and GREs are, which one you want to do. They are completely different setup. You can see what exactly they are. For tips and tricks on GMAT is just try one sample exam and see which one you score the lowest and focus on improving that. That's the one. And for the stories and the like the whole form, it's better to have a huge number of connection across the like the in the school which you are applying to, or maybe other people like recommendation. You can start thinking about who you're gonna take recommendation from in sense, or like the story. You need people to review your story. I have like for like 3 or 4 months, I basically writing the form only. Write one form and then send to people for review, and they give me feedback, and then it's an iteration. It's not gonna be perfect in the first go. You are gonna like take 4 or 5 iterations to reach the final one. Some people use consulting services also, so you can look for that to help them. And yeah, that's it. Chinmay, you want to add?
See, it's great if you are thinking about this if in your second or third year. Like the things that I were doing in my second and third year were like so far off any sort of career stuff that you guys are already looking into. So good stuff if you want to do this right now. But like in terms of preparation, I guess just for second and third year students, just like try to figure out for now if you want to go into academics or like art, like the business side of things. I guess that's more important. If you are clear on the business side of things that okay, no, I need to like I want to move to sort of non-core like business jobs. Even core actually qualifies, but basically the business side of things, then at that time I guess just try to like start exploring different sectors. One thing that I feel I could have done better, which then I had to do later, was like getting to know more about the kind of jobs that we can actually do. I guess like if because if you are in Bombay or Delhi, it's I guess it's slightly easier to get to be more aware of these things. In Kanpur, things are like a little isolated, so sometimes it can be a bit difficult. But I guess just like explore options at this point, like what you can do. It doesn't have to be just on campus stuff. You can choose the off campus route as well. And like yeah, like once you go into then think in terms of how you want to develop your career, because I guess like so for me the reason why I didn't want to do MBA early in my career is because I was looking at it as a potential option for career switch if I need it. So think about how you want to use your MBA. And yeah, like in terms of preparation, just like follow like a not consistent career path. I guess like too many switches in different sectors just to like make your profile diverse doesn't work. Like find out what you want to do. I won't talk about the GMAT stuff. Like you will walk through that. It's like nothing. But like on your work experience side, I think that's way more important. And like how you want to shape your career. So like focus, I guess, more on that and less on like this.
So now I have come to the end of my questionnaire. Now we can open the floor to general queries arising in the chat. So participants, if you want to ask any questions, you can ask in the chat. Or you can unmute yourself too.
Hi. So I'm a fourth year student. I'm doing my double majors in biological and chemical engineering. So as you mentioned that some of the I've done my my due diligence in knowing like what MBA schools are good for what, and something which I wanted to ask is like I've like some MBA schools like Stanford, they are uh, although they have a variety of fields, but they are more famous for developing peoples who lead in tech tech companies. So uh, my motivation for doing MBA is also to uh, be in some kind of managerial position in tech industry, because being a BTech, I'm interested in technology. Or the other way around, I was interested in technology. That is why I did a BTech. So I just wanted to know how, like, should at this point of my career, should I severely uh, I do not actually know whether to go for a uh, foreign MBA, because or do from something from India, because at the end I want a job in India, but I also do want the name.
Rudra, okay, let me take a stab. Feel free to add. So that is true. Stanford is known for its tech scene. And literally all MBA schools usually have one or a couple of key strengths. Like Rudra mentioned, HEC is known for fashion companies. London Business School is usually known for its more finance angle. Uh, that's like, yeah, that's tech scene. But I guess if you if you really want to see like where you want to go in terms of your MBA, I guess the first question is where you want to end up working. Like, and in so when I mean what I mean by that is like, do you want to work in India, US, Europe, and not in just long term, in short term and long term. Like long term, you and I will be back in India, but like that's a different thing. But if you want to be back in India immediately after your MBA, you can choose to do your MBA from abroad, like obviously, but you have to figure out the finances. So as long as your financial situation is sorted, um, I think it should be fine. Or the company that you're working for sponsors you. Like then that's like the ideal case. If your company is ready to sponsor your MBA, then obviously go for it and go wherever you want. Uh, Apart from that, I guess like tech is a very big thing. Like it's a very big umbrella. There is a lot of stuff that happens. So you'll also have to figure out exactly what you want to do in tech, which you can, I mean, it's not like you're late, or you're very early, so you can figure it out once you start working. But like there is product management. So if you want to do product management, then there are some other schools in US which which are not as like they are as famous as Stanford, but like they offer great programs for product management. Then obviously, like if you want to do fintech, then there are probably other schools which can offer you better. Like Europe is known for its fintech scene, so probably you can get some stuff here. So I guess decide the geography and the sector that you want to work in. Like that is for me, like that was the most important thing when I was choosing between like, should I apply for US B schools or European B schools? So like that is a very important thing. And I know Rudra said that you can, like, if you are exceptional, you can switch geography from Europe to US. Like I'll be a bit more honest, like from my experience, I don't know anyone who has done that. In fact, LBS, like the companies that come to LBS, they don't, like the US companies, you can't even apply for those jobs because you need a visa if you want to apply. If you have a visa, it's great, but otherwise you can't apply. So like the geography, the sector matters the most. So figure that out first, and then you can decide on whether you want to do an Indian MBA or like global, and in global where the college. Okay.
Yeah, so for long term, I do want to settle in India, but I do not. But I fear that if I take up an Indian MBA, then uh, I might not be given that great of a work.
That's
Maybe
not true.
No.
That's not true. That's really not true. I mean, I know a lot of people who are doing great stuff after doing Indian MBA in Indian tech companies. I also know a lot of people who are doing great stuff without any MBA in Indian tech scene. So it really depends on what you are exactly looking for in tech. So you have to figure that out first, because if for certain kind of positions you may not even need an MBA. So like it's not like MBA is an absolute necessity. That's something that you have to do. But yeah, Rudra, you want to add something?
Yeah, I really want to add something here. So one, on the Stanford, it's like a chicken and egg situation. Like they definitely will prefer people who have tech background. That's why it's the pioneer of the tech MBA people. So if you have a tech background, hopefully only then you will be able to get into, and it's super hard to get into. Others, I can give names of people from Indian MBAs who are doing great. In my ex-manager is a ISB MBA. He's right now in the Microsoft VP something level, and he's in London. He's doing great. So it's not necessary to have like an MBA from like Stanford or something to do immensely great. For sure, if you want to be in Silicon Valley, then maybe it might be needed. But if you want to do great in Indian companies, ISB MBA or IM MBA with a tech background, previous tech background, is like super solid. You will get all sort of things. No one will match you in Indian context in that sense. But if you want to go global, only then these European or US B schools come into play, or Singapore. Like Singapore is also great in sense. Does that answer?
Yeah, the only doubt I had in mind was that as most of the big tech companies are from US, their headquarters is in US, so maybe that is where the like
But
in
that's a bit shifting now. I completely agree. The top ones are from US and their headquarters are in US. So if you want to have a great work, probably you have to stay there. But things are shifting now. Some companies are shifting to London, some are in Singapore. So it's a bit, the dynamics is shifting, but I completely agree. If you want to work for a US company which has headquarters there, then USB schools will not match anything else.
Yeah, and
But
like it really depends on whether you want to work
yeah,
for a big company or a startup. So like there are a lot of variables here that you are like going for. So startup scene is great in India at this point. So like there
yes.
is, I mean, it's very good. Big companies also, like a lot of tech companies work on they have like different there are different headquarters in different regions. So I mean, I'm working in Amazon, so I can talk about that. So Amazon has like a different office which has like in its own process and its own leadership. So it's not like that if you're working in India, you can't be in a leadership position. Like similarly, other tech companies will have their own process. So the seniority is not that thing. Obviously, a lot of a lot of first testing of sorts happens in US because like that's the headquarters, so that can possibly happen. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to first decide the geography and then go for the sector and then decide.
So
okay.
I can add more. So after this MBA, I'm joining WhatsApp in London. So
Hmm.
the team never existed in London, but they're trying to set it up. And it's the same case with Microsoft. Revolut is from London, so they are from London. So you see the company which is there, the headquarters there, or these big MNCs are also expanding everywhere. The developers are sitting now across the world. It's not the same world that US developers are not developing for the big tech. It's now Indian guys sitting somewhere in the remote also doing the same thing. It has changed after the COVID. I can like vouch for those things really.
Okay, thank you.
There is a question in chat regarding consulting versus APM roles. If you could throw some light on it.
Okay. APM, PM, this is product management, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just read this first. Yeah, okay, got it. So see, I mean, both the tracks are very, very good. They offer you a lot of stuff, and from either of that, you can potentially pursue a like great career. So how you want to decide between consulting and PM, that's these two are very different things, like apples and oranges. You can't compare these two. The work style, the structure of the work, there is not inside it's easier there is nothing which is similar between these two roles. PM roles, like, I'm not an expert. I can tell you, like, from what I've heard from my friends, PM role focuses more on the product development side, so you have to work, you need to know the tech side of it as well, and you need to like then work with the tech teams as well as the business teams to then create like a product development cycle and eventually the product, and you'll probably be responsible for, if not the whole product, like a feature of that thing. So that's usually how PM works in my head. Consulting is a very different thing. You'll work with clients, you'll work in different sectors, and basically it's I mean, usually in consulting there are projects where you have, it's like 2 to 3 months project, and you'll be working on one problem with a small team, and after that you move on from that team. So it's more of a strategy business role. You don't do that much tech stuff as much as like the kind of stuff you do in PM. So like there's nothing similar. Both are great. You may feel that, okay, you want to like popularity wise consulting can give you better options, but it is really not the case. From PM also, in fact, like now, like for LBS, I can say, like, once there was a time, and this is not that far behind, it's like 4 or 5 years ago maybe, where it was the majority of students went for finance and consulting. In my batch, it was evenly split between finance, consulting, and tech. So there was absolutely no difference between like if one gives you better or the other. So it's nothing like that. Figure out which thing interests you more, because like I ran out of energy like in consulting. So like, and the same thing can happen to you as well. So you need to see like what interests, like what excites you more. I guess that's the better thing. One thing that I will do, like, want to highlight about PM, because this was something which I was also exploring before my MBA, if I should go into it. And with PM in a global MBA, there's a huge chicken and egg problem. So a lot of these schools will demand prior PM experience. A lot of the jobs will demand prior PM experience. So if you're looking for a career switch kind of thing, you may need to start at the bottom. Like there's not that much advantage. So like that's just one caveat. But yeah, Rudra and Anmol, feel free to add anything.
Yeah, I can add a few things to it. I think that is actually true for product management, that a lot of companies actually see your experience in product space before. It happens that without having a product experience, you can get into product management as well, but it's always like the best option to have an experience before. I think students who are in, let's say, the third year or the second year, they can try out internships so as to get a fair idea of how product management actually happens in companies or in startups. But also, like, if you have to make that decision, then it's actually it actually boils down to what you want to do when you graduate, the kind of work that you want to do, the kind of people that you want to work with. So I think the best possible thing for you, if you're in your fourth year, is to actually talk to people who are in the roles that you aspire for in consulting, as well as in APM or PM roles. Talk to them how their work is, the kind of people that that company takes in, and the best things about their work, and probably that can help you make up your mind. But definitely, the two roles are really different, so you have to choose somehow, and talking to those people, I think, can be a really good way for you.
Yeah, it's one thing you can also switch. Like if you after final year, let's say if you go for either one of those things, after a year you realize no, this is not working out. You can switch. It's not that late. Like IIT gives you that kind of luxury in India, where you can easily switch.
Right, I don't see a new question coming. So maybe we can wrap up this session now. We have exceeded the time limit by 20 minutes. Uh, Actually, I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank the audience for attending this session. Then the speakers, thank you very much. You agreed at such a short notice and make this thing happen. Thank you, Rudra. Thank you, Chinmay. Thank you, Anmol. Uh, Maybe we can close this meeting now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's a great
Perfect.
pleasure,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.